All right, cool. All right. We live in both places. Beautiful people. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Got it going. Screen looked a little blue and I thought it was my lens. Well, it was my lens. I fixed it. All right, y'all. That's my pen. Happy Sunday, everybody. Happy Sunday. It is the last day of October, October 31st. It is day 290 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 958. Trina, hey girl, hey, Alicia, yeah. We're reading Psalms 52 we'll do 55, and we're going to pick up on page 75 in Shakespeare's Secret Mashiach. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and do the shimmer real quick and get right to it. Levon, blessings, blessings. Okay. Remember the shimmer is found. Let's go here. Found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting at verse 3. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily. As Yahuwah, the mighty one of our fathers, has promised us in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our mighty one, he is one. And you shall love Yahuwah, your mighty one, with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah, our mighty one, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah, our mighty one, as he has commanded us. All right, y'all. Robert, shalom. Pull this up. Move this out to the side. All right, y'all. Let's get into it. Psalm chapter 52. All right. Gil, shalom, shalom. Started from the beginning. Glad you made it. All right, y'all. Psalm chapter 52. This is for the choir director. It is a psalm of David regarding the time Doeg the Edomite said to Saul, David has gone to see Abimelech. Why do you boast about your crimes, great warrior? Don't you realize Yahuwah's justice continues forever? All day long you plot destruction. Your tongue cuts like a sharp razor. You're an expert at telling lies. You love evil more than good and lies more than truth. You love to destroy others with your words, you liar. But Yahuwah will strike you down once and for all. He will pull you from your home and uproot you from the land of the living. The righteous will see it and be amazed. They will laugh and say, look what happens to mighty warriors who do not trust in Yah. They trust in their wealth instead and grow more and more bold in their wickedness. But I am like an olive tree thriving in the house of Yahuwah. I will always trust in Yahuwah's unfailing love. I will praise you forever, O Yah, for what you have done. I will trust in your good name in the presence of your faithful people. Next chapter, Psalm chapter 53. This is also for the choir director. It's a meditation, a psalm of David. Only fools say in their heart, there is no God. They are corrupt and their actions are evil. Not one of them does good. Yahuwah looks down from heaven on the entire human race. He looks to see if anyone is truly wise, if anyone seeks him. But no, All have turned away. All have become corrupt. No one does good, not a single one. Will those who do evil never learn? They eat up my people like bread and wouldn't think of praying to Yah. Terror will grip them, terror like they have never known before. Yahuwah will scatter the bones of your enemies. You will put them to shame, for Yahuwah has rejected them. Who will come from Mount Zion to rescue Israel? When Yahuwah restores his people, Jacob will shout with joy, and Israel will rejoice. Next chapter, Psalm chapter 54. For the choir director, a psalm of David regarding the time the Ziphites came and said to Saul, "We know where David is hiding," to be accompanied by stringed instruments. Come with great power, O Yah, and rescue me. Defend me with your might. Listen to my prayer, O Yah. Pay attention to my plea, for strangers are attacking me. Violent people are trying to kill me. They care nothing for Yah, but Yah is my helper. Yahuwah keeps me alive. May the evil plans of my enemies be turned against them. Do as you promised and put an end to them. I will sacrifice a voluntary offering to you. I will praise your name, O Yah, for it is good. For you have rescued me from my troubles and helped me to triumph over my enemies. Last chapter for the day, Psalm chapter 55. Obedient to Yah, shalom, shalom. This is also for the choir director. It's a psalm of David to be accompanied by stringed instruments. Listen to my prayer, O Yah. Do not ignore my cry for help. Please listen and answer me, for I am overwhelmed by my troubles. My enemies shout at me, making loud and wicked threats. They bring trouble on me and angrily hunt me down. My heart pounds in my chest. The terror of death assaults me. Fear and trembling overwhelm me, and I can't stop shaking. Oh, that I had wings like a dove, then I would fly away and rest. I would fly far away to the quiet of the wilderness. How quickly I would escape far from this wild storm of hatred. Confuse them, Yah, and frustrate their plans. For I see violence and conflict in the city. Its walls are patrolled day and night against invaders, but the real danger is wickedness within the city. Everything is falling apart. Threats and cheating are rampant in the streets. It is not an enemy who taunts me. I could bear that. It is not my foes who so arrogantly insult me. I could have hidden from them. Instead, it is you, my equal, my companion and close friend. What good fellowship we once enjoyed as we walked together to the house of Yah. Let death stalk my enemies. Let the grave swallow them alive, for evil makes its home within them. But I will call on Yahuwah, and Yahuwah will rescue me. Morning, noon, and night, I cry out in distress, and Yahuwah hears my voice. He ransoms me and keeps me safe from the battle waged against me, though many still oppose me. Yahuwah, who has ruled forever, will hear me and humble them. For my enemies refuse to change their ways. They do not fear Yah. As for my companion, he betrayed his friends. He broke his promises. His words are as smooth as butter, but in his heart is war. His words are as soothing as lotion, but underneath are daggers. Give your burdens to Yahuwah, and he will take care of you. He will not permit the godly to slip and fall, but you, O Yah, will send the wicked down to the pit of destruction. Murderers and liars will die young, but I am trusting you to save me. And that, my beautiful people, is our reading for today. That was Psalm 52 through 55. All right, so let's pull up. Okay, Shakespeare's Secret Messiah. We stopped in chapter 1 and we paused at the search for Shakespeare. We just found out yesterday that Shakespeare was a pen name for a woman, right? Shakespeare is a woman. If y'all went back to the video yesterday, probably about, I say almost 2 hours after the video, you will see on Facebook and on YouTube that I posted the links to to like Romeo and Juliet and Hamlet. It's a couple other ones that's mentioned in here. I'll see if I can go back and find those and add them to the list if you want to watch them. I'm not saying you have to, but it'll be a good refresher if you've seen it, if you haven't seen it in a long time, and it'll be it'll kind of keep you on track when he starts mentioning some of the things that kind of connect and where they're taking shots at the New Testament and Josephus in them, right? So if you want to stay on track, but if you think, I can get through without going to watch that, because they're pretty long. I posted, you can take your pick of which one you want to watch or listen to. I found the audiobook for those who want to listen to the audio. Dana, sis, where you been? I posted the audio for both of them, Romeo and Juliet. And for Hamlet, I also posted the actual play. There are multiple colleges that did the plays for him, and all the plays range from 2 to 3.5 hours long. So I posted a play for each, and I posted the movie for each. Wait, did I post the movie for Hamlet? I got to double check. But I know I definitely posted 2 versions of the movie for Romeo and Juliet, the most modern version with Leonardo DiCaprio, which is my favorite version, right? I kind of like him as an actor, and it was pretty cool the way they kind of moved the screen real fast on different things. I just like the semi-animation for that. But also there is a movie that they did for Romeo and Juliet that's more of a it's just it's good. It's a movie, but they're all like 3 hours long. So to kind of get caught up and make sure you're familiar with some of the stuff that this is using, because remember, all of this is connected. Girl, your vacation messed me up. Shoot, girl, my vacation messed me up. Not messed me up. It was good, but it did kind of throw me off on my stuff, my days and everything, where I got the Sabbath mixed up from October and November, because I was actually explaining it in detail to somebody, and I got mixed up, and I was like, I'm glad the Sabbath tomorrow, not even thinking, no, tomorrow is not the Sabbath. I was thinking tomorrow is the Sabbath, Friday, but it was actually that day. That girl, yeah, it's just, I got to do a little bit better organization next time I go on vacation for that long. So, but yeah. So yesterday we found out, Dana, I'm not sure if you've been here. I think you were here since we've started Shakespeare's Secret Messiah. It's like the second part to Caesar's Messiah. But it's going into more detail on some other things. But this right here actually gets into more detail of what Caesar's Messiah didn't, which is Revelation. So at the halfway point of this book, it starts talking about Revelation and breaking it down, how it was created, where different things were pulled from, and all the way to the end of the book, it's talking about Revelation, right? And all the shenanigans and all those things. So, but yeah, so yesterday, and if you go back, just kind of quick summation, she was actually, okay, so the Piso family, Josephus and them, they wrote the New Testament, just a quick summation. They wrote the New Testament as a spoof to Titus's campaign, right? But those who lived in that time, who were a part maybe of Titus's campaign or lived in his kingdom, they understood that the New Testament was a spoof. It was only good for a good laugh, right? It was like the Saturday Night Live of their time. But as time went on, people kind of began to forget about some of those things, or certain things were removed, it just kind of perpetrated itself for multiple decades, right? For millennia, where it was written for the lower classes of people, and it was a direct shot at the Hebrews, or the Jewish people. They refer to them as Jews in here, but it was to pacify them and pretty much to stop them from fighting against Titus in his reign by proclaiming that he was the Messiah, the Mashiach to come, right? And because they wouldn't worship him outwardly, and when they said, hey, he's the Messiah, worship him, they had to trick the Hebrews, the Jews, into worshiping Titus, which is why they wrote the New Testament. And it was just a spoof. Like I said, it was written for the learned, or for the intellectual, because the intellectual would have been caught up on everything that was going on during that time, and they would have just got a good laugh out of reading the New Testament, because they would have been able to pinpoint all these things that he's bringing out, and it baffles him and a few other people that this hasn't been caught sooner, right? Because we're considered to come from like the lower classes of Hebrews or Jews or whatever, to where this spoof was perpetrated upon us as being real and a real religion, like these are the characters when they're not. It was a complete mockery of what was going on at the time. So they've taken it as gold, solid gold religion, and they're worshiping characters and talking about people and things that were made up, that never really happened. They like flipped around. So Shakespeare, which is her pen name, right? Being a woman during that time, couldn't necessarily, she essentially wrote her plays as a counter attack against what Josephus and those who wrote the New Testament. It was an attack on her people. So she in turn began to write literature and plays as a counter attack against the New Testament, to kind of uncover some of the things, So she wanted to directly hit the Gentiles, those who had corrupted her people's literature and religion, and do the same thing to them. But being a woman, she couldn't just outwardly, hey, I'm a woman doing this, because it just wouldn't have flew back in those days. So she had to give herself a pen name, and it broke down how she created the pen name Shakespeare, which wasn't really Shakespeare, it was Shag with a G, Shags, was it Shakespeare? So she broke all that down. They broke all this down in yesterday's reading. So if you go back, Dana, yesterday, and listen, or if you got the book, just read the first half of chapter 1 all the way up to page 75, and it'll fill you in. But that was a quick overview. So yes, Shakespeare is a woman. All these plays, everything. It's one of the great reversals. One of the great reversals, right? Okay. So now that we're caught up, Perry, shalom, shalom. Let's pick up where we left off at. The search for Shakespeare. Wait a minute. You know what? Let me go back. Let me go back and read the. Let me just go back here. Dana, I'm going to read a little bit of this from yesterday, just a couple paragraphs back, and just flow right into this. Okay. To understand the analysis in this work, is important for the reader to bear in mind that the author of Shakespearean plays was not trying to directly communicate the truth about the Christian Gospels. There would have been far easier ways for the playwright to have accomplished that than the complex satirical system embodied in the Shakespearean literature. On the contrary, it was crucially important for the author to maintain a level of plausible deniability to prevent government censorship or other repercussions, while also presenting an enormously entertaining and ingenious surface level narration that would keep audiences entranced. I believe that the unmistakable presence of a profound and unsolved mystery also lends to the unique appeal of Shakespearean literature and the enduring loyalty of Shakespeare's many fans. An ancient Latin proverb holds that a word to the wise is sufficient, and the author can testify that the Flavian/Shakespearean comic system becomes much more transparent with familiarity. And we kind of talked about that a little bit, even like with the Old Testament. Once you become familiar with it and you read it enough, you'll begin to pick up on some things. Oh my goodness, my phone isn't charged. Hold on, y'all. This thing was plugged in all night. Maybe got unplugged. Give me 1 second. Oh my gosh, it's gonna cut off. Hold on. Hold on. I gotta get my charger. Okay. Hold up. I need my block. I forgot I can't plug it into this laptop. Hold on, y'all. Hey, Joshua, you got the headphones in? Yeah. Do me a favor. Run and get my portable charger. It's plugged in on my nightstand. I should have grabbed it. All right, y'all. I remember what happened. Hold on. Sorry. So unprofessional. Hold on. Oh, yeah, this ain't gonna work. I remember what happened last night. Let's see if he bring my, my phone kept ringing last night. When I grabbed it off my nightstand, I forgot I was using my shorter cord. Can't find my longer ones. Probably still in my suitcase. I ain't even done unpacking my suitcase. I'm just like, I don't need nothing out of it. I'll probably do it later on today. But my longer cord is probably at the bottom of that. And when I snatched it, I remember snatched it out to and put it on the floor. Thank you. Hold on. Oh, at least this is charged. Okay. Hold on, y'all. Okay. I'm gonna have to rig this now. Okay, I'm sorry. Hold on. Okay. I had to do it like that. All right, y'all. Hold on. Okay, that's gonna have to work. All right. Sorry, y'all. What was that? Right. Okay. So I was saying yesterday that when you're familiar with the Old Testament and you read it enough, you'll begin to pick up on some of the shenanigans. Like, wait a minute, what was this? And also if you're really familiar already with the New Testament, you begin to read the Old Testament, get really familiar with it, it's going to start raising a lot of questions. Like, wait a minute, hold on. And that's what actually kind of started me on my journey to realizing, wait a minute, what is going on here, right? It's been a few years now since that. Okay. An ancient Latin proverb holds that a word to the wise is sufficient, and the author can testify that the Flavian/Shakespearean comic system becomes much more transparent with familiarity. It is therefore likely that those in the author's inner circle would have come away from the theater with a degree of understanding and delight that far surpassed their Gentile compatriots. However, Shakespeare intended that her satires remain largely unappreciated until after the collapse of Christianity, which she no doubt hoped would occur shortly. In this way, she could deliver the same blow to Gentiles that Titus intended for the Jews. Though often interpreted as an effort to elevate humanity at their deepest level, the works of Shakespeare were intended to inflict the same sense of humiliation on uncomprehending Gentiles that Titus intended for the Jews. As was mentioned in the introduction, it is also important to note that it is not necessary to accept the analysis presented in Caesar's Messiah in order to agree with the thesis of this work. All that is required is to recognize that the author of the Shakespearean literature had come to the same conclusions regarding the Gospels given in that work, whether they are correct or not. Then, having come to these conclusions, she created the literature as a counterattack to the satirical system she believed existed in the Gospels. The starting point for her Shakespearean project was a play satirizing Titus's invention of Christianity entitled Titus Andronicus. She designed the play She designed the play so that its satirical level would be invisible until Titus was understood to have been Jesus, at which point its real meaning would become clear. She did not, of course, give her name as the play's author, choosing instead to use a witty nom de plume. As a Jew and a woman claiming authorship would have been problematic in any case, but she had another reason for her pen name. Though a Gentile actor may have been the inspiration for her nom de plume, the original spelling of his last name was not Shakespeare. The actor's real name was more likely spelled the way it was recorded on his marriage license to Anne Hathaway, William Shakespeare. The playwright was clever with words and saw that by modifying the spelling of Shakespeare to Shakespeare, she would create a declaration of Jewish defiance. With the name of her perfect Gentile, she notified posterity that the Jews had not been destroyed by Titus and his false Judaism, but would keep on fighting. Will Shakespeare, and it's in she separated it. Like will is one word, shake is one word, and spear is one word. Will Shakespeare. This is why in the first folio, William Shakespeare was abbreviated and hyphenated to Will Shake dash Spear, not together as one word, but with the hyphen in between it to bring a separation between the first half and the last half of the name. Just in case you don't have the book, so you may not understand why I keep reading it like that. That's why, because she's putting hyphens between it to break it up, so it can probably trigger the mind to be like, wait a minute, hold on, you know. This is why in the first folio, William Shakespeare was abbreviated and hyphenated to William Shake dash Spear, so as to show posterity more clearly the name's satirical meaning. To the actor Shakespeare, the change in the spelling of his name would have been of little concern because, like the vast majority of people from Stratford, he was completely illiterate. For his complicity in the plot, Shakespeare was apparently paid part of the play's royalties, which enabled him to become a landowner in Stratford. The other reason for her nom de plume was simply to create the impression the plays were the work of a Gentile. This was part of her plan to create a mirror image of the Gospels. The Gospels appeared to be written by Jews, but were actually written by Roman intellectuals ridiculing Jews. She therefore wished to create the same impression that the plays were the words of a Gentile, although they were actually those of a Jewish intellectual ridiculing Gentiles. In this way, she applied the Hebrew dictum of an eye for an eye, or in her words, measure for measure. And here's where our reading picks up today. The search for Shakespeare. There are many problems with the claim that a Christian from Stratford wrote the plays published under the name William Shakespeare. The Will from Stratford had parents who were illiterate. His few surviving signatures seemed to be in different hands. He did not teach his daughter how to read or write, and he left no mention of owning any books or manuscripts in his will. Further, since the capacity to read and write was a prerequisite for admission to the school he would have attended, the fact that Shakespeare's parents were illiterate makes it unlikely that he ever attended school. The only contemporaneous literary figure that claimed to have known him was Ben Jonson, who referred to him as a plagiarist. Many of the documents that should have recorded the extent of his participation as an actor or playwright in the London theater scene during his era have either had the relevant sections removed or do not mention Shakespeare at all. For example, the parts of his son in law, Philip Henslow's diary covering the period that the plays were written are mysteriously missing. The strange engravings of the bard's face that were published in the early editions of the plays have the appearance of someone wearing a mask, and the preface and introduction to the first folio of Shakespeare's works seems to ridicule, not praise, the Swan of Avon. Moreover, there is the seemingly insurmountable problem of Shakespeare's vocabulary of over 20,000 words and expressions. No other English writer used a vocabulary of even half their size. Milton, for example, used less than 8,000 words to produce all of his works. How did someone raised by illiterate parents come to possess this breadth of vocabulary? The answer that is always given is that Shakespeare was a genius and that this makes anything possible. But there are no other examples of this particular strain of genius in history. No other individual born into such circumstances is known to have developed a command of language that tower over his or her contemporaries. Clearly, because it was a woman that was doing it in the background and she was a Hebrew and they were very well educated, right? Okay. We know that now, but I'm gonna keep reading. In addition to the biographical problems that is the unsatisfactory nature of the will from Stratford as an explanation for many of the subjects of the play. Let me read that again. In addition to the biographical problems is the unsatisfactory nature of the will from Stratford as an explanation for the many of the subjects of the plays. That's too many does in there. Why would the Glover's son from Stratford have taken such an interest in the region around Venice or been so interested in Jews and Moors? Remember our whole conversation on the Moors? Okay. Why would he have integrated so much Jewish musical material into the plays? If the Will from Stratford wrote plays, why did he not write ones that more closely reflected his purported background? For these reasons and others, there have been many searches for an alternative author for the literature published under the name of William Shakespeare. Books describing alternative authors now number in the thousands, and there are even a number of meta reviews of the different theories that may have been usefully consulted. And that's reference 39. All of the alternative theories of authorship, however, proceed from evidence gleaned from only a small part of the total literature. These theories are only able to cite a possible anagram and a few unusual correspondences or a similarity between one Shakespearean play with another by a different author. None of these efforts have been able to connect all of the plays that make up the Shakespearean corpus to another author. Since none of the candidates can explain more than a small percentage of the plays, and yet all seem minimally plausible, or at least arguably more plausible than Shakespeare of Stratford, group theories have become popular, yet the genius and the thematic unity of the corpus belly, the idea that the corpus was written by some committee process with no central driving force behind it. An adequate argument for an alternative author to the Shakespearean literature must explain more than a few isolated phrases or even a single play. It needs to link its candidate to all of the plays. Thus, any valid alternative authorship theory must be grounded in a global explanatory framework for the Shakespearean literature. Such a framework must fulfill the following criteria. It's three of them. Number one, it must have adequacy of scope. It has to explain the literature as a unit, not as separate and unrelated bodies. Number two, it must have adequacy of depth. It needs to be able to explain the entirety of the play's symbolic structures and not just their surface narration. And a third, it must be supported by the historical and biographical evidence. The thesis presented here attempts to meet these criteria. It maintains that the playwright used the same symbolic framework to convey the same meanings throughout all of the plays, and that all of the plays reflect the mindset of a specific author. The symbolic framework of the Shakespearean literature is not difficult to understand, but it has not been recognized before simply because it was built upon another framework that critics were unaware of: the hidden satirical level of the Flavian typological system. While the problematic aspects of the identification of Shakespeare as the author of Shakespeare have become fairly well known, the alternative research community is far from having reached any consensus about the true author. Because of the vast scope of the plays, the diversity of their style and topics, the huge vocabulary, and other reasons that I will develop in the course of this book, I believe that group authorship theories are highly plausible, and yet also that the thematic unity and aggressive spirit of the plays suggests that a single mind was the inspiration of this Shakespearean project. The authorship candidates that have received the greatest attention are Edward de Vere, or Earl of Oxford, William Stanley, Earl of Derby, Mary Sidney, and Christopher Marlowe, with Oxford perhaps being the most common suggestions. While it is impossible to rule out the possibility that any of these authors were involved in a project, either as primary or secondary authors, I would agree that none of them meets the requirements for a fully adequate solution to the authorship problem, which must explain the nature of the Shakespearean literature as an inversion of the Flavian typology. The next section is Earl de Vere, or the Earl of Oxford. Efforts to connect the Earl usually involve taking isolated phrases from the Shakespearean plays and relating them to his life. For instance, in Antony and Cleopatra, the word worm is mentioned several times. This worm can be translated into French as ver, V-E-R, a word that some critics have related to ver, V-E-R-E.
This is all crazy.
Girl, don't do that.
It's the
A word that some critics have related to Vere, Vere, the family name of the Earls of Oxford, reference 40. The Earl of Oxford's Bible also has been found to have some of its verses underlined that were used by Shakespeare. This is not strong proof, however, as only 20% of the marked verses are alluded to by Shakespeare. Moreover, the over 2,000 biblical allusions used by Shakespeare, Oxford's Bible marks only 10%, reference 41. For example, of the 39 different verses in the book of Ezekiel that Shakespeare mentions, reference 42, the Earl's Bible underlines only one, that's reference 43. Another investigation has focused on certain phrases that appear to be anagrams of the Earl's family motto. The title of the preface to Troilus and Cressida, a never writer to an ever reader. That's like the subtitle. Okay, the book is called Troilus and Cressida, and like the subtitle is a never writer to an ever reader. Okay, ever, never, ever, and like you'll never have that. Just make sure y'all understand. Troilus and Cressida, a never writer to an ever reader. For example, is sometimes adduced as evidence that the author was de Vere because of the repetition of the letters ever, which can be arranged as ver, V-E-R-E. The 1609 edition of Shakespeare's sonnets are described on their title page as being our ever living poet. Words that can be turned into the anagram nil vero virug, which nearly corresponds with Oxford's motto nil vero verus, meaning nothing is more true than the truth. I might use it as our title today. Nothing is more true than the truth. Moreover, the second edition of the sonnets and the poems of Will, Shakespeare Gent 1640, also includes a dedication to the reader, which wishes glory to the deserved author, a curious phrase which can be formed into the anagram ed de vers, reference 44. Analysis from anagrams is open to multiple interpretations, of course, and the case for de Vere as Shakespeare is hardly conclusive. The next section is William Stanley, the Earl of Derby. George Finner, allegedly a Jesuit spy, discovered in 1599 that the Earl of Derby had been secretly writing plays. These secret plays have never been identified, leading to a stream of speculation about possible connections to Shakespeare. However, the evidence that has emerged is largely circumstantial. William was undoubtedly part of the same social circle that produced the plays. His older brother was the founder of the King's Men, and Derby was closely affiliated with the Earls of Pembroke and Montgomery, the dedicatees of the first folio. Various similarities have been noted between the plays and episodes from Derby's life, and his first name and last initial are the same as the playwright William Shakespeare. Derby knew French. I'm sorry. Derby knew French, which was to put use by Shakespeare in Henry IV. Derby's authorship was advocated by a stream of late 19th and early 20th century authors, including James Greenstreet, reference 45, Robert Fraser, reference 46, Abel Lefranc, reference 47, and Arthur W. Titherley, reference 48. Derby is also frequently mentioned in conjunction with group theories of Shakespearean authorship. The next section is Mary Sidney Herbert. Mary Sidney is also known as Mary Herbert following her marriage to Henry Herbert, Earl of Pembroke, has been nominated by Robin Williams as a likely author of the Shakespearean works, reference 49, as was discussed in a Newsweek article in 2004. Quote, in short, Mary Sidney had the motive, means, and opportunity to write the plays. At her home in Wiltshire, she fostered a literary circle whose mission was to elevate English literature, a strong motive. Gary Waller, a Sidney scholar at Purchase College in New York, has called her salon a seedbed of literary revolution, and Sidney herself the first major female literary figure in England. With her vast library, education, and command of foreign languages, Sidney also had the means to create the works. And with her extensive connection, and with her extensive connections in the literary world, she had opportunity to smuggle the plays into theater companies. Perhaps it's just coincidence, but the first 8 Shakespeare plays were published anonymously, and 3 of them, says William, pro- blah, provocatively note on the title page that they were produced by a Pembroke's Men, the acting company that Mary Sidney and her husband sponsored. Sidney, as Bard, would solve a number of riddles, argues Williams. It would explain why Shakespeare wrote love sonnets to a younger man. Sidney had a younger lover, Matthew Lister. It could clarify why the first compilation of Shakespeare's plays, the first folio of 1623, was dedicated to the Earls of Pembroke and Montgomery, her sons, and it would explain Ben Jonson's first folio eulogy to the sweet swan of Avon. Sidney had an estate on the river Avon, and her personal symbol was the swan. There are swans and lace collar and cuffs on her last portrait, Williams note, end quote, and that's reference 50. Considering Sidney's many literary connections, her vast library, and its many links to the Shakespearean literature, the conjecture that Sidney was involved in some way in what we are calling the Shakespearean project is quite plausible. However, I am not aware of any evidence that she would have been motivated to become the primary author of what I will show is a body of Jewish revenge literature. Next section. Marlowe and the beginning of the counterattack. I believe that Christopher Marlowe, on the other hand, was directly connected to the creation of the Shakespearean plays. Analysis presented in this work will show that he was certainly involved in the development of their hidden satirical system that attacked Christianity. as explained by the Marlowe Society. Quote, Marlowe was a child of the English Renaissance and the Reformation, which was also that troubled period called by the great scholar Dame Frances Yates the false dawn of enlightenment, which was doomed to suppression and delay. He shared his birth year, 1564, with Galileo and with Shakespeare, but that fact is never mentioned by the Shakespearean academic authors. It was a dangerous time in which to express an eager interest in the new scientific discoveries that were exciting the minds of intellectuals all over Europe. In England, Sir Walter Raleigh and the young ninth Earl of Northumberland, Henry Percy, also born in 1564, led a group of intellectuals, a select band of advanced thinking noblemen, courtiers, and educated commoners, including mathematicians, astronomers, voyagers who had explored the New World, geographers, philosophers, and poets. They formed an esoteric club nicknamed the School of Night, which met secretly to discuss this forbidden knowledge, always behind closed doors. Marlowe became a member of this close circle, who were called free thinkers and were all stigmatized as atheists in order to blacken them in the eyes of the ignorant. A most important member of Sir Walter Raleigh's circle was the advanced thinker, brilliant mathematician, and astronomer Thomas Harriot. He was in the patronage of both Raleigh and the Earl of Northumberland, the latter nicknamed the latter nicknamed the Wizard Earl for his love of experimenting with chemistry, for which he had laboratories built into all his houses. Harriet, who has been called the greatest scientific mind before Newton, was in secret correspondence with Johannes Kepler, who discovered that the orbits of the planets were not circular but elliptical. Harriet was Marlowe's Harriet was Marlowe's friend in this circle, with whom he was often seen browsing at the bookstalls in St. Paul's churchyard. These freethinkers discussed a wide range of subjects and were avid in their pursuit of all knowledge. Such men, in the eyes of church, were dangerous. The Earl of Northumberland had at an early age, dedicated his life to the pursuit of knowledge. He was eventually imprisoned in the Tower of London by King James I for almost 16 years on a false charge of involvement in the gunpowder plot, just as Sir Walter Raleigh was falsely charged, also by King James, with conspiring with the Spaniards. In fact, King James had a paranoid fear of these brilliant men because he suspected them of exercising magical powers which the superstitious king held in terror. Oh my gosh. Alicia, I gotta call you. That just answered a question for me. Hold on. Something me and my sister was talking about. Yo. Okay. Okay. I might be able to explain this to y'all later, but it's something we was looking into about something that seems misplaced in scriptures, but we haven't been able to figure it out yet. But it's just called something to click. Okay. All right. In fact, King James had a paranoid fear of these brilliant men because he suspected them of exercising magical powers which the superstitious king held in terror. Both were accused of the vile heresy of atheism. It was this that was also the cause of Marlowe's tragedy. End quote. All of that was a quote pulled from a section pulled from history. In 1593, Marlowe was apparently murdered under circumstances that have remained a matter of much speculation. While scholars have not conclusively linked Marlowe's murder specifically to his stance against Christianity, there is a clear path of circumstantial evidence leading to that conclusion. Shortly before Marlowe's death, the court of the Star Chamber placed him under investigation. This was the dreaded institution that dealt with matters of heresy and was the English equivalent of the Holy Roman Inquisition. It was empowered to use torture to obtain confessions and operated without a jury or written record. A warrant was issued for Marlowe, ordering that he be brought before the council. The warrant indicated that Marlowe could be found at the house of Thomas Walsingham, brother of Francis Walsingham, the Queen's minister and a Star Chamber member. It is possible that Francis Walsingham had Marlowe under a form of house arrest at this point. At about the same time, Richard Baines, one of Walsingham's paid informants, wrote a letter indicating Marlowe's threat to Christianity, stating, "I think all men in Christianity ought to endeavor that the mouth of so dangerous a member might be stopped." Let me read that again. I think all men in I think all men in Christianity ought to endeavor that the mouth of so dangerous a member may be stopped. His letter also made a number of absurd accusations against Marlowe. For example, that he believed that Jesus was a bastard and a homosexual and that his mother was a whore. More interesting is the fact that Marlowe was accused. Hold on. More interesting. I'm going to just underline this. Hold on. I got to be careful. I be want to say some stuff sometime, but I got to be careful for some people who are still just kind of waking up. So some things that I want to say, I can't really say because they won't get it really because they don't really understand yet because they're still kind of in that deep delusion. So it would push them away, and I would defeat my purpose of actually trying to wake them up. So I have to be really careful on some things I say. But I'm just reading this out of here like this. Okay, so more interesting is the fact that Marlowe was accused of having some unmentioned information about Christianity that was dangerous to the religion. For example, Richard Comely was said to have written, quote, Marlowe is able to show more sound reasons for atheism than any divine in England and is able to give and is able to hold on, and is able to give to okay, let me read it again. Quote, Marlowe is able to show more sound reasons for atheism than any divine in England is able to give to prove divinity. End quote. Comely also allegedly claimed that Marlowe had read an atheist lecture to Sir Walter Raleigh and other members of the School of the Night, reference 51. As shown below by the analysis of the satire hidden within the play The Jew of Malta, Marlowe was indeed aware of the fact that the Flavians had invented Christianity. At some point, I make myself notes because I got to go back and check some stuff that I was looking up. It it sheds light on some things that I was looking at. So these are some reference points for me. Okay. As shown below by the analysis of the satire hidden within the play of The Jew of Malta, Marlowe was indeed aware of the fact that the Flavians had invented Christianity. At some point, Marlowe decided to make a public declaration about the real origins of the religion and wrote a book to that effect, at least according to Simon Aldrich, who wrote a letter in which he stated, quote, Marlowe was an atheist and had writ a book against scripture, how it was all one man's thinking, end quote. And that's reference 52. The government was successful in censoring Marlowe's book against scripture, however, and no copy of it has ever been found. Based upon the understanding of the gospel's satirical system that Marlowe showed in his play, The Jew of Malta. I'm gonna see if I can find that, y'all, and I'll share it with y'all if it's still there. Hold on. Based upon the understanding of the gospel satirical system that Marlowe showed in his play, The Jew of Malta, however, if a copy of his work ever comes to light, I am certain it will contain essentially the same information as presented in Caesar's Messiah. The only short difference is that his will have been well written. The original coroner's inquisition into the death of Christopher Marlowe was discovered in 1925 by Leslie Hodgson and was presented in his book, The Death of Christopher Marlowe, reference 53. The document describes a fateful dinner shared by Christopher Morley and Ingram, that is, Ingram Fraser. Quote, and after supper, the said Ingram and Christopher Morley uttered one to another divers malicious words for the reason that they could not be at one nor agree about the payment of the sum of pence, that is, lirecanage, Christopher Morley of a sudden and of his and his malice towards the said Ingram, maliciously drew the dagger of the said Ingram, and there maliciously gave the aforesaid Ingram 2 wounds on his head, whereupon the said Ingram, in defense of his life, with the dagger aforesaid, gave the said Christopher a mortal wound over his right eye of the depth of 2 inches and of the width of 1 inch, of which mortal wound the aforesaid Christopher Morley then and there instantly died. End quote. Before this report surfaced, Marlowe was often portrayed as having been killed in a drunken pub fight with some ruffians. However, from the report, we learned that the building where the pub fight occurred was not a tavern, but a personal residence owned by a Mrs. Bull, a relative to Lord Burleigh, the Treasurer of England. Historical records show that the man accused of killing Marlowe, Ingram Fraser, was Thomas Walsingham's serving man. The Queen pardoned Fraser within 4 weeks of the crime, an unusually short interval. Elizabeth also used the era's equivalent of the British Secrets Act to make any further investigation of the murder impossible, and she limited inquiries into Fraser's crime to only those that were raised by her own court. This legal maneuver assured that the case could not be reopened even if new evidence resurfaced. The discovery that Marlowe was allegedly killed over a dispute concerning Lee Reckonage, the reckoning or bill for the meal, enabled another scholar, O.W.F. Lodge, to see the connection between Marlowe's death and the following passage from As You Like It, delivered by the clown Touchstone, reference 54. Quote, when a man's verses cannot be understood, nor a man's good wit be seconded by the froward child, understanding it strikes a man more dead than a great reckoning in a little room. Volume 3, pages 3 and 9 through 12. End quote. Lodge noted the obvious conceptual parallels between the Shakespeare passage and Marlowe's death, and pointing out that Marlowe was undoubtedly on the playwright's mind when he wrote As You Like It, as the bard had also given Phoebe a quotation from Marlowe's Hero and Leander, attributing it to a dead shepherd. He also pointed out that in addition to reckoning and struck dead, the passage had another odd parallel to Marlowe. In Marlowe's play, The Jew of Malta, there is a passage that also uses the expression in a little room. Quote, and thus methinks should men of judgment frame their means of traffic from the vulgar trade, And as their wealth increaseth, so enclose infinite riches in a little room. Volume 1, page 1. End quote. And this is literally the end of the chapter, y'all. So we're going to finish these 3 little short paragraphs, and it'll be the end of the reading for today. Since Lodge's 1925 critique, many scholars have accepted this connection, though none has offered a good explanation as to why Shakespeare thought it was appropriate material for a clown. This is because the meaning of the 3-way connection between the coroner's inquest into Marlowe's death and Shakespeare's and Marlowe's passages containing the phrase "in a little room" can only be understood by someone who was familiar with the hidden satire that lies within the Jew of Malta. As noted earlier, Marlowe had somehow learned about the true meaning of the Gospels and had writ a book against Scripture, how it was all one man's making. But before Marlowe wrote his explicit denunciation of Christianity, he had written a number of plays and poems that attacked the religion satirically. One of these was The Jews of Malta, written around 1590. Marlowe's plays are as interesting and as important as Shakespeare's in their depiction of the origin of Christianity and deserve an entire book explaining them. But within this work, I shall only analyze the Jew of Malta, as it suffices to show how Marlowe's work was seminal to Shakespeare. And that, my beautiful people, is the end of chapter 1. Y'all, this is getting better and better by the day, ain't it? I don't know, but I'm super excited about uncovering history and truth and stuff, and it's really good to me. Yes, baby girl. Yes, you can end it, sis. All right, y'all. So hold on, we'll be over here. Make sure my phone. I think it probably have enough charge for me to sit it back over here. Where we at? All right, y'all. So I hope you enjoyed the reading for today. It is the last day of October 31st, 2021. It is day 290 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 958. We read Psalm chapter 52 through 55, and we read the end of chapter 1 in Shakespeare's Secret Messiah, pages 75 through page 86. All right, y'all. So this is really, really good. I know people that may come in like right here and haven't been here for the last book reading of Caesar's Messiah might be a little lost. They're like, wait a minute, she was reading the Bible, now she talking about Shakespeare. What is going on with sis? Like, y'all should have been here. Y'all should have been here. Because all of this goes together. It's all a part of one huge, big, elaborate scheme. Y'all got to be here. Hold on, what am I looking for? I get that in a minute. Okay, let's go ahead and do I want to show y'all something. Let's go ahead and do the blessing. I didn't see any questions. So the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Remember, the first 21 verses of Numbers chapter 6 is the Nazarite vow. Man or woman can take it. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his son, saying, On this wise you shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahuwah will kneel before us, presenting gifts, and will guard us with a hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order, and he will provide us with love, sustenance, and friendship. Come on, Tootie. Yahuwah. Come on. Okay. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his son, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahuwah will kneel before us, presenting gifts, and will guard us with a hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order, and he will provide us with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yahuwah will lift up his wholeness of being and look upon us, and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them.
Well, you didn't do our name.
I did. I literally just did.
Oh.
I literally just did. All right, y'all. So That is the more accurate rendering of Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. A lot of you are probably used to hearing it from the King James lingo and how it says it, but this is a more accurate rendering from somebody who speaks fluent Hebrew, right, and can read some of the read just about all of the original scrolls and stuff. So from the original scrolls, that's the most accurate rendering of what it says, right? And it makes it more intimate. It really does. So that's why I like that
It's
version.
Saturday.
No, that day is Thursday. Today is Sunday. Yesterday was Saturday. All right, beautiful people. That's it. We out of here. I love y'all. Thank y'all for hanging out. I will see y'all tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Put it back, sweetie. Put the phone back. Bruce. All right, y'all. I ain't see no questions, so we out of here. Go ahead and end it, little girl. Public, yep, never delete. Post now. Very good. Okay, end it over here. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Yahuwah is one. Shalom, everybody.